Imagine a city where homes sell for as little as $1,000. Welcome to Gary, Indiana, a place once called the Magic City, now struggling to reclaim its glory. Born from the raw power of U.S. Steel, this city hit its peak with over 200,000 residents. But when the economy shattered and the mills shed jobs, Gary suffered a massive 60% population collapse that turned entire streets into ghost towns. The ruins of the City Methodist Church and the hollowed-out shell of Union Station now stand as haunting monuments to a golden age that vanished overnight. However, Gary's reputation doesn't tell the whole story. While some neighborhoods continue to struggle with crime, others are noticeably safer. Gary Works still operates. The city benefits from casino revenue, and its location near Chicago remains a major advantage. That's why some investors still see opportunity here. But is buying a home in Gary a smart investment or a costly mistake? Now second is East St. Louis, Illinois, $28,000. That's the median price of a home in a city located just 15 minutes from downtown St. Louis. At that price, buying a house sounds almost unbelievable. So why aren't investors rushing in? Because East St. Louis isn't just affordable. It's one of America's most disinvested cities, and its story has been shaped by more than a century of hardship. A century ago, East St. Louis was one of America's busiest industrial cities. Think about dangerous Michigan cities, stockyards, they think about meatpacking plants, but 60 miles to the north, factories, a quieter crisis has been unfolding for decades, and the population climbed never made national headlines. People. Never triggered a federal emergency, and never received a $600 million One of the deadliest racial massacres in American history unfolded here. In 2012, mobs killed dozens of black residents. Saginaw. Some estimates place the dangerous city in America for women, while thousands with a rape rate of 76 per 100,000. It's a chapter of history that many Americans have never times the national average. As industries disappeared over the following decades, no documentary was made. And opportunity. The city's pain was by 1989, and then largely a federal housing official described Saginaw's violent crime rate sits more than most times above the national average. America. Worse than 99% of American cities. Later documented its 88 police officers are stretched nearly half below what a city this size Savage Inequalities, exposing just how deep the city's homicides rose sharply. Up 7 from the year than 18,000 residents homes remain, here sell for almost and nearly 60% of Saginaw's no longer isn't about bargain prices. It's about what happens to a city crime is when the rest of the country simply stops paying attention. Yet despite decades of decline, East St. Louis is still home to families who never gave up on their community. So the question remains, are these incredibly cheap homes a hidden opportunity, or a warning buyers can't afford to ignore? Third is Flint, Michigan in April 2014. Flint, Michigan switched its drinking water source to save money, but the new water wasn't properly treated. Within months, residents noticed brown water flowing from their taps. Many reported skin rashes, hair loss, and a strange metallic taste. Despite growing complaints, officials repeatedly assured the public that the water was safe. Later investigations revealed they had ignored warning signs for months, turning a cost-cutting decision into one of America's worst public health disasters. But Flint's story didn't begin with its water crisis. Long before that, it was one of America's greatest manufacturing cities, and the birthplace of General Motors, one of the world's largest car companies. For decades, thousands of workers built cars here, earning stable incomes that supported local businesses and neighborhoods. But when factories began closing and production moved elsewhere, jobs disappeared almost overnight. Families left in search of work. Businesses shut their doors, and the population dropped from nearly 200,000 people to under 80,000. Entire neighborhoods were left behind, with thousands of homes sitting abandoned. Then came the crisis that put Flint in headlines around the world. Investigators estimated that between 6,000 and 12,000 children were exposed to lead-contaminated water. A Legionnaire's disease outbreak was later linked to the city's water system, resulting in 12 deaths. Multiple government officials faced criminal charges, including Michigan's former governor. Yet after years of legal battles, very few people faced lasting consequences, leaving many residents feeling that justice was never fully served. In 2023, a $626 million settlement received final approval to compensate thousands of affected residents. Then, in May 2025, the Environmental Protection Agency officially lifted its emergency order after years of infrastructure improvements. Even so, many people in Flint still refuse to drink tap water. For them, replacing pipes was easier than rebuilding trust. Today, homes in Flint often sell for a fraction of the national average. For some investors, those prices look like an opportunity. For others, they serve as a reminder that rebuilding a city's reputation can take far longer than rebuilding its streets. So before buying a home here, ask yourself one question. Is Flint one of America's biggest hidden real estate bargains? Or a place where the past still shapes every investment? Fourth is Chester, Pennsylvania. For centuries, Chester, Pennsylvania stood as one of America's great industrial cities. Founded in 1682 by William Penn, it became Pennsylvania's first capital before transforming into a manufacturing powerhouse along the Delaware River. Companies like Sun Shipbuilding, Scott Paper, and Ford employed thousands of workers, allowing families to build stable lives and prosperous neighborhoods. But that success didn't last. Beginning in the 1960s, factories started closing and manufacturing jobs moved elsewhere. Thousands of workers suddenly found themselves unemployed. Families left in search of better opportunities. Businesses shut their doors, and entire neighborhoods began falling into decline. As more residents moved away, abandoned buildings and vacant lots became common throughout the city. As the economy collapsed, Chester faced even greater challenges. Crime increased, poverty spread, and the city's finances deteriorated. In 1995, Chester became Pennsylvania's first city to enter Act 47 financial distress, placing its government under state oversight. Years later, corruption investigations led to criminal convictions involving senior public officials, further damaging public trust and making recovery even more difficult. Despite decades of setbacks, Chester continues searching for a comeback. Waterfront redevelopment, infrastructure projects, and Subaru Park have attracted new investment, while community organizations work to rebuild neighborhoods. Yet many parts of the city still struggle with poverty, vacant homes, and limited economic opportunities. Today, Chester sits just 15 miles from downtown Philadelphia, yet homes often sell for a fraction of nearby prices. Some investors see an affordable market with long-term potential. Others see a city still recovering from decades of industrial decline. So before buying a home here, ask yourself one question. Is Chester one of America's biggest hidden real estate bargains? Or a city where history still shapes every investment? Fifth is Saginaw, Michigan. When Americans think about dangerous Michigan cities, they think about Flint. But 60 miles to the north, a quieter crisis has been unfolding for decades, one that never made national headlines, never triggered a federal emergency, and never received a $600 million settlement. Saginaw simply suffered in silence. In 2012, Forbes magazine named Saginaw the single most dangerous city in America for women, with a rape rate of 76 per 100,000 residents, more than 15 times the national average. No presidential visit followed. No documentary was made. The city's pain was noted, and then largely forgotten. Today, Saginaw's violent crime rate sits more than 6 times above the national average, worse than 99% of American cities. Its 88 police officers are stretched nearly half below what a city this size should have. And in 2024, homicides rose sharply, up 7 from the year before. Homes here sell for almost nothing. But Saginaw's real story isn't about bargain prices. It's about what happens to a city when the rest of the country simply stops paying attention. Sixth is Memphis, Tennessee. For more than a century, Memphis gave America its greatest gifts. It gave the world the blues. Born on Beale Street in the early 1900s, where W.C. Handy and B.B. King created a sound that would go on to shape rock and roll, soul, and modern music worldwide. It gave the world Elvis Presley, who walked into a small recording studio on Union Avenue in 1953 and changed the direction of popular music forever. And on April 4, 1968, Memphis gave America one of its most painful moments, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel, while visiting the city in support of a sanitation workers' strike. Few cities in America carry a cultural legacy as heavy or as beautiful as Memphis, and the fewer still have fallen so far beneath it. Memphis is the largest city in Tennessee, home to more than 600,000 people. Graceland draws visitors from every continent. Beale Street fills with tourists every weekend. The National Civil Rights Museum stands at the exact spot where history changed forever. But beneath that famous name lies a set of statistics that are almost impossible to explain away. In 2023, Memphis recorded 351 intentional homicides, the worst total in the city's recorded history. That same year, Memphis led the entire nation in gun theft, with 546 stolen firearms per 100,000 residents, nearly double the rate of Detroit. In 2024, the violent crime rate stood at approximately 2,380 per 100,000 residents, more than 550% above the national average. According to Neighborhood Scout, Memphis has the highest overall crime rate of any major American city. 1 in every 11 residents faces a statistical chance of becoming a crime victim in a given year. Then came January 7, 2023, and Tyre Nichols, a 29-year-old man, pulled over during a routine traffic stop, beaten by 5 Memphis Police Department officers, and dead 3 days later. The footage released to the public shocked the nation. All 5 officers were charged with second-degree murder, and Memphis was forced into a national conversation about violence that went far deeper than what happens on its streets after dark. Homes in neighborhoods like Berkeley sell for a median of around $89,000. Whitehaven averages around $115,000. The overall city median sits at $189,000, a fraction of what comparable properties cost in Nashville or Knoxville, just a few hours east. And yet, for the first time in years, something is changing. In 2024, homicides in Memphis fell by 26%. Shootings fell by 38%. Carjackings fell by 48%. The largest single-year crime reductions in decades are happening right now, in a city that has needed them for a very long time. So before buying a home here, ask yourself one question. Is Memphis finally becoming the city its music always promised it could be? Or is one good year just the beginning of a much longer road home? 7th is Camden, New Jersey. Camden, New Jersey sits directly across the Delaware River from Philadelphia, separated by less than a mile of water and decades of difference. While Philadelphia grew, Camden collapsed. By 2012, it had become the most dangerous city in the United States, with 67 homicides in a single year, and a police force cut in half, because the city could no longer afford to pay them. So Camden did something no American city had ever done. On May 1, 2013, it disbanded its entire police department and built a new one from scratch, without a union contract, with community policing at its core. It worked. By 2025, homicides had fallen 82% from their peak. Camden recorded its first homicide-free summer in 50 years. Homes that once sold for almost nothing now carry a median price of around $128,000 and rising. So before buying here, ask yourself one question. Is Camden proof that broken cities can truly fix themselves? Or is 12 years of progress still too soon to trust?